Welcome back to another episode of the MindSets podcast. Charles, episode 75.
What a number that is.
3/4 of a century.
It's crazy.
That's huge.
It is crazy.
We're moving through them a lot quicker now that we're doing weekly. That's quite fun. First of all, I absolutely love the matchy going on with your
How
outfit.
good is that? Yeah, I feel like it wasn't on purpose, but it looks quite good.
It does. The two go together. It's like the two teams are like sister teams.
Sister teams.
You know when they pair like a random...
City in the middle of nowhere, yeah. The Padres and the Wapping Hockey Club.
So my girlfriend's father has a toilet paired with somewhere in Africa that's like sponsored. How rogue is that?
That's a niche fact.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. This week, we have another slightly different topic that's still pretty aimed towards beginning of the year mistakes a little bit, but less so like giving you a list of things that you can do wrong. We're kind of going to go into some depth about training methodology, that sort of thing. First, though, the new expedited segment of the podcast is the 2-minute news. So we're going to put the 2-minute timer on, and I reckon I'll take the lead on the news this week.
I reckon.
But we're going to try and get it hot off the press. So, timer ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
In the NFL, the Super Bowl game has been decided. It will be the Seahawks and the Patriots, which was an incredible game last time it happened. If you remember that one, you will be looking forward to this one. Back in the College Football National Championship game, Indiana beat Miami U 27-21 with Mendoza, the current Heisman, taking home that trophy for Indiana. In English football, Manchester United did the world a service by beating Arsenal 3-2. And making sure that we all remember that this Arsenal team is not as good as the once Invincibles. In tennis, Djokovic is through to the semi-finals after a shaky victory in the quarters against Mazzetti, who had to pull out with injury. Alcaraz, however, is looking as strong as ever going into the latter stages of the Australian Open. The women's semi-finals will be commencing this Thursday, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. In Winter Olympics, the Jamaican bobsleigh team has made it through after the team qualifies, and we will be seeing them again this year. Team GB is supposedly set for a record-breaking number of medals, and I mentioned her last time, but Tabby Stoker has actually gone one further than she did last time, and she got third in the Female Skeleton World Cup, which sets her up nicely for a fantastic Winter Olympics campaign. Up next, we have the Tour de France 2027 route map has been put out, and we've got starts from stages in Edinburgh and in Leeds, which is particularly exciting. If you've been enjoying the Tour de France, you can now go and watch more of it in the UK. In High Rocks, last week we had Manchester High Rocks and we had an unofficial mixed relay world record. Why is it unofficial, I hear you ask? Well, they actually broke the world record. However, unfortunately, Sinead Bent did not have her timing chip on, which means that they were disqualified very, very early on. Simple mistake to make, but at that level you have to question, is that very, very basic? This week, we go to Phoenix with High Rocks. It's the Elite 15 major, so we'll be seeing all of the best in action. Some of those from Europe won't be traveling over, which gives us an opportunity to see more of the big names from the States. We're talking people like Dylan Scott in the men's side of things, and the women's field is looking incredibly strong. However, it's actually propped up by a few newcomers from England. So we'll be looking forward to seeing those girls run out, and I believe that might be inside 2 minutes, Charles.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Can we move on to grind my gears?
I think it's probably what the people are expecting. Pretty packed bit of news though, and a lot happened that weekend, so I'm glad that we got that all fit in. Anyway, grind my gears this week. Do you want to start this one off?
My one I'm going to be quite passionate about, I think, unfortunately. I spoke about the end of last year. I'm in my triathlon era.
Oh yeah.
So I've started to do a lot more swimming, and I never really did much swimming growing up. So going to the swimming pool, there's like lots of new etiquette to learn. And I just feel like there's no control or proper etiquette around who swims in what lane and who is kind of, I don't know, qualified to swim in the certain lanes. So the experience I had on last weekend, I was swimming in the fast lane. I'd booked my certain slot. I assume there's only X amount of slots per lane, per swimming session. Halfway through, there's like 4 people in the lane. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Another couple of minutes goes by. Now there's 6 people in the lane, to the point where there were 9 people in the fast lane. Now, not everyone should have been in the fast lane. Arguably, I shouldn't have probably been in the fast lane. But that's not my problem. My problem is then I can't go to the medium lane because there's people in the medium lane who shouldn't be in the medium lane. So the people in the medium lane swimming slow, they're going to ruin my session. They need to take the L and go to the slow lane. But then there's people in the slow lane who just shouldn't be swimming. So it's like it perpetuates the problem to the point where everyone just congregates in the fast lane and people are doing their own sessions. And it's like when you're resting, you're standing at the end and then you can't turn properly at the end of the lane. And it's just like everyone's getting frustrated with everyone. There's some really good swimmers. There's just no etiquette around when to move, who's controlling that. Lifeguard's half asleep.
I cannot relate to this whatsoever because I've not been in many swimming pool lanes without feeling so alien,
God, it
just
rattles
getting
me.
out or just like swimming across them just to get out of the pool. But I can directly relate to how that must feel because whenever I'm driving in a car on a motorway, it's the exact same thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It is like people are just chilling in the middle lane because they don't really know what they're supposed to do with their driver's license.
Yeah.
The highway code makes it explicitly clear. If there's no one else in the slow lane,
Drive on the left.
or on the left,
Yeah.
slow lane, get in the fucking slow lane until it's time to not be in the slow lane.
Yeah.
And like I assume that's probably how it should be.
But that seems like a really logical way of doing it. But there's just like, there's no written rule.
The problem being, I guess, if a scenario, think about this, everybody. What if there's one really slow person, someone slightly faster than them, and then I turn up and I'm like, I can swim a little bit. So I get in the fast lane because I'm like, I don't want to get in the way. I don't have to deal with them. And then they both get out. I'm head down, just doing my session in the fast lane. Now you come along, Mr. I'm fast, and you're like, what's he?
Yeah.
So I was the fast person.
But then the problem is, I get that, but it's like, it's more about congestion then, isn't it? So it's like we can deal with only 2 people in the lane. But when there's like 9 people in the lane, who's the first person to go,
Okay.
I'm going to sacrifice my session, I'm going to swim slow, and I'm going to go in the medium.
New solution. You just put a sign up that has paces. And you have lane paces.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
With a maximum number of people.
But the only problem is, it's like, I don't want to use that as an example. That would have been bad. But like, how many times did you ask someone what their like predicted finish time is, and they go, "Oh, I am an X time." When you obviously know they're slower than that. It's just an ego thing, I think.
It should be like Traitors, which I haven't actually watched, so this probably isn't anything like Traitors. But if you're in that lane and you're not doing that speed, every 10 minutes everyone can vote someone to move down a lane.
That's unrivaled. That's good. That's the solution. But hang on. Because what happens is, because I'm a considerate person, when I've got a certain session to do, if my effort is longer than, let's say, 100 meters, I know I'm going to be going slower. Let's say I've got a 200 effort. I'll then move down to the middle lane to do my 200, and then I can pop back across when I've got my 50s and my 100s. But it's like, what if everyone was as considerate as me? Then we wouldn't have this problem.
The world would go around a lot nicer.
It would. No one would talk to each other.
Yeah.
But I like the traitor
I've got a
solution.
question though. When it comes to overtaking, because in a lane, you obviously have the 2 directions in one lane.
Yeah.
How do you, can you overtake?
So that's the thing. Like,
Or do you just go,
no, you have to. I think if it's not as congested, you can overtake, but you have to wait until you get to the end of the lane. But the
then ask
overtaking
if
is you can't even ask because you can't speak underwater.
I thought people get to the end and they just like shuffle along
No,
and then
so
wait and go.
you have to assume that person's going to use their own discretion and go, this person's clearly faster than me. I'm going to stop and let them go through. The worst, the whole episode is now on swimming etiquette. The worst is if you're in the fast lane, someone just freaking starts doing like back crawl or freaking breaststroke, and you're like, obviously you're going to get in the middle lane.
Yeah, that's fair. And they might be like, well, I'm fast. So
No, you're not.
Get out of here.
Let's move on.
I think you've put me off swimming for the year, which is a shame because I actually really want to do it. But that's pissed me off enough that I don't even want to see it.
Together. We'll go together. We'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Because I want to go in the same lane as you.
No one wants to go in the same lane as me now.
I've got some grind my gears this week, and we've got one that's been sent in from Will. Will has an issue with, because of the development of AI, right? And everyone's using AI for everything. that AI is now being given credit for things which isn't AI. Which this is like really niche, but I promised I'd mention it. And I kind of get it. People saying like, oh, planes use AI to land. Like that's actually not true.
Yeah.
They do have an auto land function, but like don't take it away from the engineers that did it.
Yeah.
There was other stuff where it was like, oh, AI made that on computer. As someone that works in the video space, I can see very clearly at the moment anyway, when something is AI.
Yeah.
Just because something looks really good and you don't know how it works doesn't mean that it's been done by AI. That's pretty key.
It's like the stock phrase though, definitely AI.
Yeah, and to be fair, whenever I see this is really bad. Whenever I see someone giving fitness tips and stuff online, I'll read it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's definitely AI.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the telltale signs of the double hyphen and that sort of thing.
The specific emojis they use as well.
Yeah,
always. Yeah,
but sometimes it's not, and you just kind of have to understand that people have put some real effort into certain places. So that's one. My others aren't really at all fitness related whatsoever, but they have been grinding my gears very heavily this week, and I thought I'd bring it here. So salt and pepper covers. When you buy salt and pepper from a supermarket, the little grinders come with plastic covers on top of them. People that continue to use those,
oh no,
piss me off.
Really?
Because once you've opened it, get rid of the lid. In fact, the lid shouldn't be there. You should just be able to grind away. Carefully, sensibly, using safety measures. But you should just be able to grind, because you can just put it in the other way up. Or you can just occasionally clear up a bit of salt and pepper, or put it in a salt and pepper place, or whatever. But what I don't want is to be doing my salt and pepper over the top of my food and going for ages because I'm like, I can't actually see any coming out. And then looking at it and being like, there's a fucking cover on it. And now I've got so much pepper in the packaging thing, and I now don't know what to do with that pepper.
You're just upset yourself for doing something stupid.
Why does it need to be covered?
I don't know, maybe hygiene.
It's covered in itself. If it's not been ground yet, it's covered by the grinder. Get rid of it. Don't like it.
I keep the pepper grinder cover on.
I could tell by the way you were talking. I could tell by the way you were talking that you're the sort of person to leave a pepper grinder on, and I'm against it, and I'm against you. The next thing, I think I already know that you're on the enemy side as well.
Classic.
I need to explain this very, very carefully because this, for some reason, is a niche grind my gear, and it really shouldn't be. When you turn your oven off, do you turn the thermostat down? Because we have an argument in our household where I think the oven should just permanently be left with the temperature dial at 180 degrees C, because everything gets cooked on 180 degrees C in a fan oven. And my partner thinks that both the power dial and the temperature dial should just be turned to 0, so then you can set it every time. The problem is, when you have two people that are different, is I then preheat my oven if I'm preheating my oven, and I preheat it at 0 degrees for 20 minutes, and then I go to put my food in, and the oven's not actually on. It should have just stayed at 180, and if you were going to set the temperature difference anyway from 0, you could just adjust it from 180.
In the same vein that you could just turn it up from 0.
No, because if you haven't
This
used
is
the oven
another-
since, it could stay at 180 for me.
Yeah.
If you're going to change it anyway, change it anyway. But if I don't have to, I don't have to. Everything should just stay at 180.
What I'm excited about, because I agree with the temperature
I
thing.
never expected you to say that you're excited about it. But yeah.
I'm excited.
Okay.
I agree with the temperature thing. I'm excited to hear the cooking nerds say that you don't cook everything at 180, because that's a lie. You do.
Yeah, you literally
Name something that doesn't get good to 180.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with the turning down from my OCD. Same as why I keep the pepper thing on.
I understand the OCD thing a little bit, but I would say that the OCD for me in just always having the oven ready
I
is
guess
too important, and like efficiency wise.
what, the 1 second
Yeah.
less than.
And the energy saving, and
What energy saving you?
I reckon
Your
over a
energy.
year, if you did that every day, and I wouldn't because I've got an air fryer, but if you did that every day, you're talking like important calories for your next competition.
K-cals right
Yeah,
there.
K-cals.
In the tens, maybe.
I think you'd be pushing it if you actually got to the tens. Probably maybe 2 or 3 calories across a 365-day period.
Really?
I reckon so.
And that's worth saving.
It's added to my argument. Look, we discovered this in the last episode. I'm pretty good at defending things, but sometimes I can't really defend everything. And actually, we should highlight that. when I was defending these terrible, terrible things in the last episode, and if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it at the game. But that should really highlight to you that anyone that can get a half decent quality camera or a half decent quality microphone can sell quite literally shit to anyone. Just because someone sounds convincing or seems like they know what they're talking about and makes minor logic doesn't mean that you fully understand it enough to buy something. So just bear that in mind. But now I sound like a dad, and I don't want to sound like a dad on the podcast.
And now we're going to move into our topic, and we're going to tell you exactly what to do.
So the topic of today has actually been highly requested, is volume versus intensity, which is always a bit of a tough balance because you're never doing enough zone 2, but you're also never doing enough hard efforts, and you're never lifting heavy enough, but you're never deloading enough, and you're never not injured, but you are always slightly injured. And let's talk about it.
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be my catchphrase now, but it's always contextual, and it's always relative to what you're training for.
That avoids all the lawsuits. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's the topic done.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's hard to explicitly say one is better than the other. And that's actually a grind my gear when I see that on social media all the time. It's like, you shouldn't train like that. And it's like, well, actually, maybe you should. It just depends. So it's like, you need to kind of create some avatars or some things to go like, this person's training for this, therefore they need X amount of intensity, or they need to be doing this type of training. But the volume versus intensity, I think at the end of the day, just comes down to your ability to tolerate volume and then your ability to recover from that volume. I think it's like the best way to kind of umbrella it and then start looking at it in a little bit more specifically based off your goals.
One of the things that I find very, very interesting with like training knowledge and over knowledge and then lack of knowledge is the output that you can get. My favorite example of this is parkrun. Okay. Because there will be people that listen to this, and it's probably most of the people listening to this care enough about fitness to try and learn as much as possible and learn the sort of nuances with certain types of training. With running training, there's a good understanding of doing easy running volume, and then doing your speed work is important, and basically managing enough of each and the bits in between so that your general speed and efficiency improves and your technique improves and you get faster until you hit your ceiling. However, you could be doing all of that, and you could have heard about all of that. You could have watched all the YouTube videos from all the best creators and athletes out there on how to do it, and you could mimic them. And then you rock up to a park run, and dad with pram beats you. You talk to dad with pram, how long have you been doing this? And he goes, doing what? You say, running, and running competitively. He goes, this is my second ever one. I only started running 4 months ago. I just try and run a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And your immediate thing is, genetically, you're crazy. But in actual fact, if you look at your own training where you try to be hyper specific about what you do, how often you do it, based on this athlete, this athlete, this athlete, you haven't been listening to your body, you therefore haven't been resting right, you haven't been managing your volume and your intensity correctly for your own training. Whereas dad with pram goes out, goes, feeling pretty good today, I'm going to push it.
Yeah.
Does so.
No pun
Next
intended.
one, God, I just need to get out on a run today. So he just goes and does a bit of an easy run. And in actual fact, potentially his training management has been better than yours. Now, what I'm not saying is that his training is better. I'm saying his training management of volume intensity might have been, which means that on a given day, over a periodized block, he might actually have a better performance rather than what you may go and do, which is overanalyze everything and push yourself to do something. And then when it comes to it, you actually haven't achieved an awful lot. Which is why I think it's a really funny conversation topic.
Well, I think it's like, you've mentioned so many things there that I want to touch on, but like, that's why it can't be cookie cutter. And that's why having a coach or someone who can guide you and help you understand that and structure it for you is really helpful. So dad with pram is never going to be the same as one other person. It's just like, it depends on your situation. And then being able to train intuitively is a really great skill to have. And having the discipline to not only go to the gym when you feel a little bit tired and still get some work done, but also know your boundaries and go, actually, today, this isn't going to benefit me. I need to step back and maybe not go with the right intensity. And I think we've covered that loads and loads of times before. I think when you kind of like ask yourself the question, how am I feeling today? And it's like a relative scale based maybe like 1 to 10, whether you include your physical well-being and your mental well-being to combine the two to kind of regulate your intensity in the session. I think that's a really good tool. And the more you do it, the more experience you have with training, the more intuitive you do become. And as a result, over the course of a week, because it's really difficult to look at it in day-by-day sections, because if you go day by day, it can often be demotivating. If you go, well, I don't feel that great today, I'm not going to train. You go, well, I missed a session. But if your sessions are across a week, you go, well, it doesn't matter that I missed that session today. That can be my rest day because I didn't feel that great. Hopefully tomorrow I feel better and I can just push everything along a day and you can still create the volume. But going back to the original question, it's like volume versus intensity. The catch-22 here, especially if we're talking about performance in sport, doesn't matter what sport you choose, but you probably need both volume and intensity. They can come together, they can come separately. But in my background in CrossFit, we were always praised as coaches when it was like, we wanted to put the point across where it's like, we are impressed by intensity and not quantity. Because initially what happens when you start doing CrossFit, you get really excited and you think, all I need to do is just quantity, because there's so many different things and skills and like stuff that you need to get better at. You need to get stronger, you need to get fitter, you need to learn new skills. You then need to develop capacity in those skills. And there's just like lots going on. So people will fall into the trap of just doing too much. And
that's the same with High Rocks now.
And you'll hear the term like junk volume. You're just doing volume for the sake of volume. And is it actually impacting your training? Could be yes. So it's like there should be kind of like a scale and a dial, and I think that's why low aerobic or zone 2 work has become so popular, is because you can do lots of it and you get a lot of good aerobic stimulus and adaptation from it, but in terms of relative fatigue that it creates, it's quite low. So you can go to the gym and you can do an hour of zone 2 and then the next day you can feel completely fine. You might be a bit more hungry or something like that, but in terms of like impact and management around loading on your actual body, I think that's why doing more zone 2 is a really popular way of training at the moment, because it helps to develop the base.
Do you think a lot of people, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this in terms of like general intensity, would you recommend, and we've kind of discussed this maybe before, would you recommend for someone that does a few strength sessions a week, a few running sessions a week, #hybrid athlete, would you recommend that when it comes to Sunday, that they still try and do an hour and a half on a bike in zone 2, and that's their recovery, is flushing stuff out, and it is easy, maybe zone 1, zone 2?
Yeah.
Or would you actually say, look, just take it off and we'll go again tomorrow?
I could probably argue it both ways. I'd definitely suggest in your training that you have at least one full rest day. I know you're a big advocate of sitting on the bike to help improve blood flow and as a result hopefully promote some sort of speedier recovery. It might work for you, it might be a little bit of placebo, but I think there's probably some science around that actually being helpful in terms of like an active recovery, but it would just be case by case. Some weeks you might feel up to it, some weeks you might just want to lie on the sofa because you've had a big training week, but it just doesn't.
That's definitely something. I think the last time we spoke about it, I was very much like just trying to spend as much time doing aerobic work as possible. And I think more recently, partly due to workload and that sort of thing, I think it's pretty normal for most people that are listening to this as well. It's just like some days you just, even the thought of doing half an hour is just like, I'm sure it has a physical benefit, but a mental benefit and strain of me doing that rather than just being like, you've had a tough week.
Yeah, it's not.
Let's actually just have a night off. Isn't worth it. And I always get stuck with that in myself as well, because on the days where I do convince myself to go and sit on the bike for it, when I'm 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Like I'll actually do like a proper session of 45 minutes to an hour. I don't need to be doing the 20-minute one that I promised myself just to get on the bike. I think that's really difficult as well, because in that, now that I've got on it and I feel fine after 10 minutes, well, I decided that 20 minutes was going to be enough and was fine for what I needed. But now I feel good enough to do 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Which one do I do?
It is really interesting. And I think like volume versus intensity, it's a difficult one because people look at the phrases in like completely different ways. Like if we look at it from a strength specific kind of like angle, intensity comes in the form of like, if I do a 1 rep deadlift, like that can be really, really high intensity and it lasts like 3 seconds or whatever, probably not even that long. Whereas like, I think typically in the fitness industry now, the buzzword of being like having high intensity and like functional fitness and whatever, for high roxers especially, intensity is like an hour of threshold work. Like it's long and long and long, and as a result you do need more time to recover. So it's like, it just depends on what you're considering intensity, what your actual volume looks like. Volume's always going to be relative. Like we look at training load and training volume, and probably on the largest end of the scale, like what we would consider a normal week to some people is just like a ridiculous amount of volume. And I don't think we train necessarily like actually that much compared to top athletes. So it's just like, it has to be case by case. You want some intensity, you want some sort of like low aerobic volume probably, and you want to mix it up with some other different types of training, and you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep to recover and you're eating good. And it's like, that's going to be my theme, I think, for this year. It's just like, just do basics well.
One of the things that I think we look at AI also stopping people using their brain so much. One of the things that always really frustrates me when people go looking for advice or come and just ask questions to someone is they haven't necessarily tried to do the critical thinking beforehand. If I was to just logically say, I want to be really, really fast over a half marathon. Okay, well, first of all, if I wanted to beat someone that's very good in a race that runs, let's say like a 108 half marathon, I don't even know what the pace would be off the top of my head for that, but
Fast.
Very fast. Low threes, I would imagine. So let's say they're running low 3-minute kilometers. If I wanted to be beating them in a race, well, first of all, can I run that speed at all? So that's the first thing. I've got to get my technique and I've got to get that fast. That's one thing that's obvious. But the overbearing obvious thing is, can I even do it for that long? Now, question number one, can I run for that long anyway?
Yeah.
I'd say currently with my level of fitness, my answer would be, yeah, I could run for that long, no problem. But then how fast can I run for that long? Okay, that's the issue. So how do I bridge the gap? Well, first of all, just because I can run that long doesn't mean that I find it easy or comfortable to do so.
Yeah.
So I need to get used to doing efforts of that length. That consists of a lot of volume. Then to be able to work on my speed stuff, well, because I can't run it for that long, I need to be doing short, sharp efforts, building up to that point, and I'm not just going to start running at that point because my body wouldn't be ready and I'd get injured. So already I've mapped it out. You can see I've got to get my body used to being able to go for that long anyway, and that's going to take a lot of time and effort. So that's the volume. I then also need to be doing the stuff where I'm developing my speed, and I'm going to be controlling how much of that I can do by how much I can handle. So that's the sort of middle layer. And then, I'm actually getting fitter as we're getting close to the event, and I'm figuring out my top speed. I'm going to beat this person because I can run the low threes that I need to. So now I'm just extending those efforts, but then I'm still going to do some really short, sharp stuff to get the muscles working technique-wise. All of a sudden, just in that conversation using logic alone, I've explained what a pretty good balance of volume, specific to me, volume required versus intensity required would be to get to that goal. Now, if you listening to this were to take the same approach to whatever your goal is, and you started from the ground up and thought, that's where I want to be, this is where I'm at, realistically, am I even fit enough to cover the event length? Maybe not. Well, that's the key thing. Because even if I reckon I could go outside right now in my socks, and I could probably run the pace that I need to run for that 108 half marathon. But I would stop after 20 meters because my feet probably hurt. But if my feet didn't hurt, then I could maybe do it for 400 meters if I'm lucky. That's the issue. That's the main focus. I can do it for 400 meters. If I was to say like an elite time, I can't do it.
No.
Really. So yeah.
I think it also, like you touched on it nicely there. It's like, it also is dependent on where you are in your season and what your goal is. Because you've used the half marathon there as an example. You can use any race, any fitness event, whatever you're training for as an example. And then you when you're setting out your training plan to get to a certain goal, you periodize it. And that's all that really means. It's like a training block. The first part of your training block will be pretty low intensity, and you're focusing on accumulating the volume. And I almost famously call it the accumulation phase. Everyone jokes about it, but like that's technically what we'd call it. And all you're doing there, low intensity, lots of volume. So use it in the example of a 21K race or your half marathon. You're doing lots of slow, long running. In and around that, depending on your tolerance level to the long, slow running, you're probably also doing the stuff that allows you to do that without being injured. So whatever that is in the gym, whether it's plyometrics, isometrics, all of the other stuff around that, the strength work that it requires. And then as you move away from accumulation, let's say your block's 12 weeks long, you might do that for 4 to maybe 6 weeks, depending on the length of the block. Then you go into intensification. You won't lose much volume because you'll still be doing lots of longer running, but we will start to crank up the intensity. So that's where you're getting your faster running. So whether it's 1 kilometer repeats, etc., broken miles, similar sorts of sessions that lots of people running will be familiar with. And then it gets really, really intense. And then you start to go into like a taper and prep for race week. But that's kind of the structure, and your volume and your intensity will depend on where you are in the season.
Yeah. And one topic that I want to kind of a subtopic that I want to cover within this is we talk a lot about things like Hyrox, CrossFit, and running a lot on the podcast, because especially in modern fitness today, that seems to be a really good holistic view of what fitness is. But if we talk about the person that not necessarily is a powerlifter, but just really only cares about getting stronger.
Yeah.
If you're looking to increase your lifts, you have to think about adaptations in the same way we maybe have spoken about them aerobically, where if you look at someone that is considered a laborer by trade and you take them into the gym, some of them don't go to the gym, and you ask them to go and deadlift your 1 rep max, which you have been training for years for, some of them can rip it off the ground.
Yeah.
And the reality of that is that for years, they have also been picking things up much lighter than that, but they have been bracing correctly, or their body has adapted to get used to working under load for up to 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12-hour days. And they recover now in 12 hours and they go back and do it again the next day. And they do it 5 to 7 days a week, depending on what stage in their career they're at. And then they go into a gym and you ask them to pick up one heavy thing one time. Of course they're fine.
Yeah.
And yes, again, it might be a little bit heavier than what they've picked up on site, but their body's so well prepared that actually they haven't done much of the intensity thing. So maybe that's well within their limits compared to the other stuff they've been picking up. Whereas you maybe train your deadlift or your bench or whatever it is once, maybe twice a week for maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, using the logic, you can kind of understand why that person would be better. So you have to be doing the volume accumulation in your strength training, which is why you shouldn't be going and doing 3 rep max sets or even less than that all the time, because you're not giving your body a chance to understand how to move the thing in the first place and do it enough in a safe enough way that you don't get injured to then be able to give the output when it comes to those testing points.
I think strength training specifically is like a minefield, and there's so many different methodologies and schools of thought and ways that people will navigate strength training, and there's different ways that you can navigate training based off your like genetic predisposition. If you're like more strength biased versus more aerobic bias, you might want to do less reps, more weight, etc. And especially like when I look at Olympic weightlifters, because you probably don't want to be doing 3 to 1 rep maxes every day. There's some Olympic weightlifting programs where that's legit all you do. Like in the morning session, you'll go in and you'll front squat as heavy as you can for just 1 rep. And then you'll clean and jerk basically until you can't go any heavier. Go away, eat, sleep, do some steroids, come back. Caveat with that. And then you're going to do the same thing, but maybe this time you're going to back squat or overhead squat, and you're going to build up to a heavy 3 or a heavy 1. And then you're going to do the same thing for your snatching, and then maybe have some accessory work. You go home, you sleep 12 hours, do some more steroids, and then you come back and you do the same thing. So it's like, if your body can tolerate that, then great. If not, you'd probably take the same approach that I spoke about with the running, but apply that into weightlifting. So the easiest example, like you used there, let's say it's a deadlift. you might want to do some original testing to figure out what your numbers are. You can do anywhere between like a 1 to 5 rep max probably. I like to settle in and around the 3 rep range. And then you just progressive overload, get heavier with the percentages and decrease the amount of reps you're doing. So in week 1, you might do 3 sets of 12 reps at 70%. And then the next week, you might do 3 sets of 10 reps at 75%. And then it's 3 by 8 at 80%, and then you might deload. And then it's like, okay, now we're going to do 4 sets of 10 reps and it's just like progresses. Like there's so many good strength programs out there, and all training basically works the same. If you want to get better, it's just progressive overload.
I'm going to put you somewhat on the spot here a little bit, which I know you absolutely love when I do, but we recently found out when we were doing our review of the 2025 year analytics, that we actually have, I mean, because we're 2 blokes talking on a podcast, we actually have a large female following. And
it was shocking.
It was shockingly high. So first of all, thank you to you girls. We will continue to try and bring you more into the podcast. You deserve it. But one thing that I think would be interesting to talk about in terms of volume versus intensity is the obvious elephant in the room when it comes to female training, but the hormonal aspect that women experience on a monthly basis. How, as a coach, have you handled that with volume and intensity consideration?
It's such an interesting thing. And like, I'm glad you bring it up, because I think, especially, I'd say in the beginning of my fitness journey as a coach and being a lot younger and as a result, just more immature and probably less aware of it, it was still like very taboo, and there's still like this, oh, we're not going to talk about it. I can't talk about it because I'm a guy and I don't want to say something that is going to be offensive or whatever, or make it awkward. As I've matured and got older and more knowledgeable as a coach, it's legit just a conversation that you have. And like, my clients will come into the gym and they're like, yeah, I feel shit today because X, Y, and Z. And you're like, well, that's completely fine. And then you might come into the gym and go, wow, fuck, I feel great. Because as you say, like as the hormones across the month change, there's going to be more optimal times for you to push your body. And then there's also times where your body is in a position where it's a lot more vulnerable, and as a result, a lot more perceptive to injury. And there's lots of really interesting scientific research on injury management within females weightlifting. And there's such a high percentage of females who'll get injured in specific phases of their cycle. So it's like definitely something that I need to be more knowledgeable about, but it is as simple as going and doing some research and then also having an open conversation with your female clients about how they feel certain times of the month. And it's just not awkward at all.
Kind of not stepping away from that, because it's still something that everybody should consider, but how much of an impact, if let's say in a session I either have, and you might have to consider these differently, but what would you say if I had like a 3 rep max test, or not even that, you just set me heavy 5 reps, 3 sets of something, or I had the equivalent level of difficulty on a rowing machine or a ski erg or something like that, and I rock up and I'm just like, I don't physically nor mentally feel like up to just going all out like that for the number. I'm willing to do maybe the volume, but not quite the same level of intensity in terms of the amount of weight that I'm going to put on for that test, or how fast I'm actually going to go. Or I say to you, well, I'm happy to go that far, to go that hard intensity wise, but not the volume. What from your side, if this was like a one-off where I'm just like, just today is just not the one, which one would you go for personally? I know this is really difficult to answer because it's so contextually based, but what would you look for?
I guess it does depend on like what you're training for, et cetera, et cetera. On the one-off, I'm probably going to say volume at less intensity. So it's really interesting because I'm thinking of like 2 clients that I'm coaching at the moment, and they're running very similar strength cycles and doing, or have very similar goals, and they're doing very similar lifts. One I've put very heavily on percentage loading, one I've put very heavily on RPE, which is like relative perceived exertion, but it's basically the same thing. I just know one's going to react better to the perceived exertion because there's just less pressure on it, and the other one is like really hyper focused and like really wants to see the progression, and a lot of it comes down to like your psychology as the client, and I need to understand that as a coach, because if I go, all right, I'm setting you your deadlifts today and you're going to do them at 75%, and you go into the gym and you're not as relaxed as you are, and you go, I don't feel like it today, I'm just going to do like a 7 out of 10 effort or a 6 out of 10 effort, you go, I can't hit 75%. Suddenly you start to have this like negative mindset around your training, and you go, well, if I don't do this percentage today, then I'm just going to get worse and worse, and it like perpetuates or compounds. So it's like understanding how your clients are going to react to it, but then also having the ability to be flexible with your client and go, it's actually okay if you just do like 10% less today. But a lot of it is just based off what you want to do. And I'll often flip a question like that on itself and ask you. So it's like, especially if it's in person, and they go, well, I know you told me to do this today, but actually I want to do that. I'm like, well, do that. Like, training's training.
There's an interesting discussion that I had far earlier on in the podcast with Tommy Lewis. People might know of Tommy Lewis on Instagram. First of all, he's actually been put on a list on social media.
I saw it's top 5.
Top 5 for most jacked runners online.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't realize, like,
he's in shape.
he's actually in very good shape.
Yeah.
He's a person
among the likes of Jake did and Endurance, right?
And he's actually quite jacked, but he's also just like very quick over a very long distance. He's into ultra running, but his less ultra distance running is still very fast. But he preaches, the strength training side that you require for running, and again, that's quite clear. One of the things that I found really interesting was very early on into people becoming aware of who he was on social media. One of the things that he tried to spread knowledge on was, as people try and build their running volume, when they say, oh, I've got a weekly total of 20K, and they start to really overthink it. Oh, when am I going to fit my 5K, my 2 5Ks and my 10K in? He was like, what if you just did 2K one day and then 3K the rest of the days? It took you less than 20 minutes each time.
Yeah.
Like, you could do that, and that's the same volume. If you're going to be doing most of that easy running, just do that. If that's more manageable, it's literally the same thing. Your body doesn't really know much different. And if anything, you're kind of spreading the load and the rest out better. That might work better for you. And so that, not on its own, but again, the logic of that has stuck with me. So if I know in an ideal world to get me faster at running, I'm like, oh, I need to be doing a speed session. And for the adaptations, I should probably be thinking about doing it for like 40 minutes as a session, which includes some of the rest and everything. But that's and I have to tag that onto my gym session, because I'm not going to be able to do that where I live in a nice flat setting. There's no tracks near here, so I'll do it on a treadmill or something at the gym. I've got to tag that onto my strength session. I'm going to be in the gym for 2 hours. And then I'm like, nah. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, if my speed session was going to be 6 by 1K, what if I did 3 by 1K on Tuesday and I did 3 by 1K on Thursday? In my head, that's actually way more manageable and much nicer. Part of me still like, probably not getting the same adaptation, but I'm still getting enough of the work done that it's better than if I skipped it for the week. And then you start to think about, well, that's actually the logic. And people massively misconstrue the double training days that athletes do, or even triple training days. Because the more that you can train and the more that you can handle, the better it can be for you, and that's where you find those benefits, but you have to get there. However, a lot of people think, wow, you're doing like really hard run session, really hard erg session, really hard strength session daily. Well, obviously not, because no one can handle that level of volume unless you're taking gear. So in actual fact, what it looks like is one of those might be pretty tough, but the others are kind of more going through the motions. In fact, one of them might be super easy and just a case of flushing the legs out and sitting on a bike, or just doing some technique work, some mobility. That's what one of those sessions might be. And even if one of them's like a quote unquote speed session, it might be at 75 to 80%. That's still that's still threshold training, but it's not like maximal threshold training. And so there's so many different nuances within that I think people hear a term like the Norwegian training method,
double threshold,
and think, wow, that sounds crazy. But it's like, threshold doesn't mean 100%.
No, I mean, it's always contextual, but like, but also like you touch on a really nice point there as well, because and I think I said it in the last podcast, where the best gym for you is the most convenient gym. And it's the same thing. The best training that you can do is the training that's accessible, and it's the training that you enjoy, and it's the training that you're going to consistently do and be able to do sustainably. So if doing 6x1K in the week is not sustainable for you, don't do it. Do something that's going to be actually manageable, because for most people, just general health and fitness, you don't need to be doing this crazy stuff. And it's what you're exposed to on social media, the likes of double threshold days. And you're just seeing people who dedicate their life to training, who don't have jobs out of that. Their job is to train, to recover, to eat. You have a 9 to 5, you have X, Y, and Z, you have external stresses, and you have all of these. So again, this is going to be my big thing for 2026. It's just basics, and it needs to be simple, and it needs to just be accessible and just manageable.
And just to tag on, we're not necessarily even talking about professional athletes here. Like, there are people that have following and are influencers that are sponsored and are in effect paid to just train, because that's how they make money. They push brands, they influence people on different things, and that's how they make their money. But they are not at elite level, but they still earn off the sport. And you might look at them and go, oh, well, they're not a professional football player, they're just really good. And it's like, well, they don't have anything else to do but train, and therefore they kind of are professional. They just don't come under the umbrella of playing for a team.
It's hard to not be sucked into it and go, well, if they're doing it, I can also do it. But again, the best training is not what someone else is doing. It's the best training is the training that you can do for yourself, and it has to be specific to you. And I'll leave it after this. I promise. I'll stop talking. But based off that, because I used to do a lot of interval work on the ergs, as you know. I kind of stopped doing that for a while. I've now started to reintroduce it. And I was so obsessed with the pacing based off a certain metric or a certain test. And it was like, some days, today even is a good example, where I was just like tired and didn't really want to do the session. And I knew that if I started the session, I would be so upset if I couldn't hold my pacing. It would just like negatively affect me. So what I'm trying to do is shift the narrative away from pacing as being like the be all and end all. And I'm trying to work in heart rate zones. So it's like, because there's so many external factors that are going to impact my heart rate. Today, a slower pace, because of the way I felt, a slower pace may have still taken me into threshold, and I could have done like 35 minutes of threshold on the erg. Whereas like 2 weeks ago, when I felt better, I had more sleep and there was less stress with work, I had a lower heart rate, but I was still working like a similar or higher heart rate, and I was in a similar pace. So it's like, you just have to adapt it to make sure it suits you and you can get the most out of it.
And that's where you're kind of managing the physical and mental, because physically pushing yourself to do that pace would mentally fatigue you so much, and probably physically fatigue you as a result, but it's not worth it. Whereas if mentally you were in it, but physically you just didn't necessarily feel it, you might actually get more out of it if you 100%. Were to do it. And you just kind of have to understand that you are a brain with an internal voice. This is about to completely fuck me up mentally, but you have a brain with an internal voice that's been put in a body, and the body follows the brain, but the body massively impacts how the brain also feels, and they're kind of two entities strapped into one together, and you kind of got to learn to coexist.
You have to,
And that's really what the art of training is about.
And this conversation, like, it's a good conversation to have, and I feel like we could probably sit here for hours and hours and hours and just like go back and forth and talk about different scenarios. And like, people who train will really understand this, because it's an experience thing when you come to training. And like, you also then have to not be too soft with yourself and like not wrap yourself in cotton wool the whole time, because it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole. And like, when you lose motivation for training, like I've done it before, where it's like, oh no, I don't feel up to it today. That's okay. You can do like a 1% effort on the C2 bike. But actually sometimes you're like, no, get a grip. You feel okay. You can do it. Yeah. So it's like finding the balance it's honestly a rabbit hole. And that's why having an experienced, knowledgeable coach who can help guide you through it, and we always come back to that, is really helpful.
If you're listening to this and you feel like you've got a particular scenario you think would be interesting for us to discuss, then do get in touch at mindsets_podcast, or even just drop a comment or send a message off here wherever you're listening or watching. There may be the option for that if you're on Spotify, particularly YouTube. Obviously, there's you can message, you can also leave comments. If you're there anyway, we would massively appreciate it if you dropped a follow and shared some stuff that you find interesting from the podcast, and tell a few friends to tune in as well. But I'll leave that topic there, because we're moving into the game. So the game this week I have come up with, you've got 8 questions. And on this set of questions, I'm not really giving you anything. You just have to tell me.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you 3 or 4 clues about an athlete, and you have to tell me the athlete.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're listening to this, get involved. I'm gonna say these things, and if you think you know who it is, pay attention to if Charles doesn't. If you get it and he doesn't, put it in the comments. We need to keep track of these things.
This is my year.
This is your year. Number 1,
Okay.
Nike,
Oh no.
15 majors,
Tennis maybe.
DUI, red.
Wait,
DUI.
Am I being stupid?
Driving under influence.
Oh, yeah, I was being stupid. I thought that was like
I forgot what it was then, and
yeah,
that really made me panic. No, DUI, red.
What was it? Okay, red. Nike. Oh. It's not tennis. 15 majors. Was it 15? Yeah, Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods,
Yeah,
spot
yeah.
on. Very, very good. Okay.
Got me with the golf one. I'm warm. Okay, that's good.
Number 2,
Okay.
Ballon d'Or,
Oh no, I'm not good with football.
World Cup,
Yeah.
Barcelona, big teeth.
Barcelona Ballon d'Or. I can't ask any more questions like, do they currently play?
No, not really, because
Okay.
I've given you a limited number of things.
Okay.
I'd say almost
Wait, what was the first one?
Ballon d'Or, World Cup, Barcelona, big teeth.
Ooh, big teeth. Because I was thinking Messi.
Yeah.
He's won the World Cup as well, hasn't
He has, yeah.
But he doesn't. Well, maybe he has big teeth. There's another name. It's like.
Are you thinking of the person specifically?
Like,
Try and describe them.
well, I'm thinking Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 2 people that I'm thinking of that both have big teeth, I think. But I think it's Ronaldo, or there's another, but it's like Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho, is it?
That's correct.
Is it?
That's correct. You're doing very, very well. Ronaldinho, yeah, number 10. Okay, number 3.
Oh, pleased with that.
Former number 1 in singles and doubles.
Okay, it has to be tennis.
5 Wimbledon wins. American.
Singles and doubles.
Number 1 in singles and doubles. 5 Wimbledon wins. American.
5. It has to be. It has to be one of the Williamses, doesn't it? I don't know how many. Wait, the 5 is across singles and doubles championships, or like is that singles?
It's across them both.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Serena because I don't know about Venus.
It's Venus.
Shut
It
up.
was Venus Williams. So close, so close. Okay.
I was gonna say something really deep about gut and brain and instinct, but I'm not gonna go down there.
No. That's
We'll save
so
that for
wrong.
another episode.
Yeah. Okay, number 4. So you're
I'm gutted.
you're doing well. You're doing
I'm
well though.
gutted.
You're doing well.
Okay.
Nike,
Yeah.
High Rocks, The Feed.
Oh no, I'm not good with. Okay, so I'm narrowing this down. It has to be an elite 15 because you can't just pick a random person.
I haven't just picked someone that I've seen.
There's only a handful of Nike athletes that I know. We should play the MindSets drinking game every time you mention Charlie Botterill. The listeners have to drink.
True.
I know he's Nike. He's elite 15. The Feed. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming that's.
Have you seen that? A lot of some of the athletes are wearing
Tia
caps or
Toomey have the Feed. So I don't know if that's a British company. I don't think that's British or European. I'm going to say that's either Australian or American.
Okay.
I don't know any of the. I don't think it's a man,
Okay.
but I don't know. I only really know 2.
Who do you know?
Joanna,
Mhm.
and then Sinead.
Mhm.
Sinead's not Nike because she wears Rads. Joanna, can't pronounce her surname.
Vitric.
I'm gonna go with her.
It's close. Joanna does wear the feed. However, she is a Puma athlete.
Oh, you'd be gutted.
And Lauren Weeks is who I was looking for. The current world record
she
holder.
Nike?
She's Nike.
I thought she was rad as well.
No, she is rad as well, but she races in Nike trainers.
Oh, that threw me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got that though.
Okay. Number 5,
That was close.
Puma. Shoelaces,
Okay.
Jamaica.
Okay, I was thinking High Rocks when you said Puma.
I know you were.
Yeah.
That's why I said it in that order.
I don't know then if there's any Elite 15 Jamaican athletes that race High Rocks that I can think of. So I'm not going to go High Rocks. Shoelaces.
That, for some people listening, will have been it.
Like
They'll be like,
easy.
oh my God.
Jamaica. I'm just going to have to go like, it's got to be like sprinting or like athletics or something.
Okay.
Because Puma. Oh,
Go on.
it's got to be Usain Bolt.
It's
Is
Usain
it?
Bolt. Yeah.
Okay, shoelaces because he yeah, okay.
Break the world record with his shoelaces undone.
Oh,
Okay. This one's a little bit tougher.
okay.
But I've given you slightly more detail. British,
Oh no.
retired.
Okay.
First man under 26 seconds for 50 meters and under 57 seconds for 100 meters.
This is going to be like
That's world, by the way. That's not British, but he is British.
it's going to be really niche where it's like you've tried to divert me with the times. So I'd go that can't be running. Wait, what are the times again?
So first man under 26 seconds for 50 meters and under 57 seconds for 100 meters.
So I'm already thinking then that's got to be swimming.
Okay.
Unless it's like, yeah, I'm going to go swimming. British. But he could be Scottish. Would you have specified if he was like, he goes out of his way to be like, I am Scottish?
I wouldn't have specified.
Is swimming right?
Swimming's correct.
Okay. There's only a few. We spoke about, I think on the first episode, Duncan Scott, was it? He was
First episode this year, yeah.
He was on the quiz.
Yeah.
So maybe your mind's going that way. But the only other swimmer that I can think of, it could be a woman.
It's definitely not a woman. It's first man under 26 seconds.
Yeah, okay, fine. The only other one that I'm thinking of, because he popped up on Instagram, because he married Gordon Ramsay's daughter, is Adam Peaty.
Right.
Wait, does it say what stroke it is?
No, I'm not giving you that.
Oh, okay, Adam Peaty.
It's Adam Peaty. Correct. Correct. Okay. This one's going to be a little bit tougher for other people, but I think actually somewhat easier for you.
I'm actually over the moon
You're doing
with
really
that.
well.
Okay.
565,000 followers. British, current Olympic champion for specific track distance.
Current Olympic.
Current
556.
565,000
So I'm not
followers.
getting the distance.
No, I'm not giving you
Wait,
distance. Current Olympic champion
Olympic champ.
for track distance.
Josh Kerr.
Incorrect.
Oh, Charles.
Do you have another guess? You're not
No,
going to
I
get a point.
went too soon.
You did.
Because am I thinking world champs? World champs he pulled out, and then did he come second at the Olympics behind Cole Hocker? That was tough.
Okay.
Let me have another go. Track.
Yeah.
I'm not good at listening.
It was track.
Current Olympic.
Current Olympic champion.
British.
British.
Is it a woman?
It is a woman.
Track Olympic. Oh, come on. Keely Hodgkinson.
It is
That
Keely
was
Hodgkinson.
Such a botched job as well.
Yeah.
I just shot in the dark.
Can you redeem yourself?
That's annoying because I should have got
Can you
that.
redeem yourself? Okay. Last one.
I like this game.
27 years old.
Okay.
UAE. Colnago.
Tadej Pogacar.
Spot on.
Too easy.
Too easy.
Yeah.
That was good. I think, yeah, you actually did pretty well there. I think you got like
I've got
5 out of 8.
I missed, but like the Lauren Weeks one was really tough.
That's tough.
I don't really know that many, embarrassingly, like Elite 15 Hyroxes. What was the Venus Williams?
Venus Williams. And you did say her name.
I
You just
should have
went
got
for the
that.
wrong sister.
And then what was the other one? The Keely Hodgkinson.
Keely Hodgkinson.
The Adam Peaty one was a clutch. Like that was just
That was very good.
knew like
Yeah.
a handful of swimmers, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that game. That was good. That was fun.
If you guys did better than 5 out of 8, definitely put it down in the comments. And if you want us to play that game again with different athletes, then maybe send some of those athletes in and some clues that you think would be good to do, or just let us know and we will run it back in a future episode. But that rounds us off for this one.
That was, yeah.
Amazing. Well, unless there's anything else from you.
No, I'm just buzzing off that performance. I've never done wearing a quote. And I didn't even do that well, it turns out.
You did well enough.
Yeah,
did well
take
enough. In which case, we look forward to seeing you all back here again, same time next week.